Going on, it's a Hellion Viking opening with a super quick third command center from Maru. I really do enjoy having a Viking out against the Speed Overlord build because it's already a little bit of an, I guess, inefficient opening. The Zerg investing a lot in that scouting, and if your Viking can pop out and just shoot down this first Overlord, make it very costly every time they want to get a scout off. You might even intercept the Overlord ahead of time. Gives you some good windows to make good use of that, and no real safety precautions at all for Maru. A greedy game one start. Doesn't even have a tech lab down. Who needs a tech lab? He's like, nah, no Banshee, nothing like that. I'll just start Stim, go to 3 barracks from here, double eBay, and he's going to have that bio explosion out across the map very early on. There's always that point where you go, well, supply's all right for Zerg, but I am afraid as those reactors come online, I think Maru, I mean, he's about to force the Zerg into full defense, and he's going to have such a big production behind this.
Yeah, waiting for that 1-1 in the combat shields. Can't quite contest 4 queens with 30 Zerglings behind them, but as you were talking about, Romanticide has a good amount of airspace for jumping around in between these bases, so it comes over to that natural, gets a few drones, forces the Spore to reposition, and of course keeps those Lings moving around, all in the meanwhile living very safely at home. And I think this is, you can't really overstate the importance of keeping on this pressure, even if it's not doing catastrophic damage, because at the end of the day, if your opponent has to spend their whole time staring at their own base defending against you, they're not attacking you, and that gives you a whole lot of room to breathe.
But Maru here still has a lot of Marines on the map. He just doesn't have too much to back it up just yet. He's gone for a 4th command center, a 2nd factory. But for now, it's more about harassment and kind of just chipping away at the Zerg than any real serious push.
And we can see the way he's got his Marines spread. Like, this isn't a crazy amount, but that hatchery down to half of its hit points and continuing to drop. Doesn't want to risk it because he sent a huge amount of his army across the map for this backstab. We have SCVs getting blown to smithereens. This is kind of what I was talking about. The first opportunity that Solar is able to go for a counter, he gets a huge payoff because Maru has just constantly been sending everything straight across the field.
Yeah, well, that tank's so annoying. Maru trying to set up all over the place, but he does lose all the workers on his 3rd base. He takes out the 4th of Solar. If he can get a few more workers on top of that, it'll be nice for Maru. But right now, it's looking like Solar has a big economy edge. And oh, the Banelings find the Marines. Solar defends both sides, immediately rebuilds his 4th base. He has the new 5th up in the bottom, and that's a good trade for the Zerg. Happy to drag Maru's economy down into the dust. He's just got to withstand these next few attacks, and Maru's tanks, they keep bleeding out. Maru's on almost pure Marine right now. If we look at the units tab, you can see that his army is almost pure Marines in this game. Oh, the tanks are going down.
I was going to say, he's losing a lot of the tanks. He's still keeping that pressure up, though. Got that base snipe. But yeah, the map presence has been huge. It's 52 Marines with just 3 tanks. And that's, of course, with a couple of them having just finished in the last minute or so. And having 2 factories does make it a bit easier to get back into that tank production. Having a high tank count in these types of situations is really important if you want to use tanks. Just 1 or 2 is going to give the Zerg a little too much freedom to dance around, especially once those lurkers come out and the Viper play gets added into the mix. You know those are going to be huge targets for the Abducts and or Blinding Clouds.
Yeah, definitely looks like a hard position for the Terran here. I mean, having a good siege tank count is actually not a bad counter to lurkers, but he's lost so many siege tanks. Maru finally finds an opening, gets rid of a hatchery and a couple of workers there, and he needs that. He needs to buy time. He needs to somehow secure a 5th base while keeping Solar on his side of the map. Solar, though, is a player who understands this game on a very deep level, and he knows that his army is strong, and now is the time for him to fight. He wants to shut these drops down and get over to the other side of the map because Maru is not ready to defend a lurker assault.
I love the way Solar intelligently puts the Parasitic Bomb on the medevac with a little bit more HP, knowing that the splash would kill both of them since the cloud remains after it dies. But one of them, even almost equally impressive, Maru, with the way that he split that off to save these Marines. Every single unit he has for that pressure is so important. And these guys are going to see in the bottom left, Solar's kind of sending some forces around. He knows that Maru's been stashing guys, and Maru not looking is going to lose all of the Marines that are over there. But Pig, the Lurkers, they're coming!
Yeah, they already forced a siege up in the north. Not as many tanks here. A bit of a fierce thrust forward from Solar. That 1 siege tank in the natural is doing an insane amount of damage. Solar, maybe a little cavalier with that one. The Banelings do take out a lot of SCVs on the 4th, some of them, but not all of them. Oh, Ling's getting in as well.
Oh my
Engineering
God.
base burning. It's a bit of a scrappy attack as Maru stabs in the rear, takes out a bunch of overlords. The rally will eventually clean this up though, and as Maru's 4th base falls to the lurkers, Solar can pull back, and he knows that he's got a very important victory. 5 base Zerg versus 3 base Terran. Zerg up 50 supply. That is a fantastic situation here for Solar. He's just looking really in control in map 1 of this series.
Yeah, I can't believe the way that, I mean, you were talking about it. It was quite a thrust moving all the lurkers up that ramp, and normally it's like, oh yeah, if the siege tanks are a little far forward, you just jump on them with the lurkers, but those tanks are pretty far back. He bled out quite a bit. And speaking of, the ghosts are going to trim the fat a little bit on the edge of the creep there as well, trying to buy a little more time, create a little bit more space for Maru. But I guess if you're playing in Solar's position and you're able to kill that 4th or continue to deny it or put pressure on it, that really is the lifeblood of the Terran army. Maru's supply has been going back up towards 200 a lot more slowly this time.
The upgrade tab getting very full there for Zerg. +2 range, pathogen glands, double air upgrades. All sorts of things starting to slide on out for Solar, but I think he's just going to wait for his moment. And this is a mature choice by Maru, taking that base on the left side of the map. He's got that beautiful tank spread turrets everywhere. Now, we saw a similar stalemate to this in one of the Beyond Solar, Beyond Serral matchups from, I believe it was the Last Chance tournament. And really the answer to this is to come out with a surprise round of Broodlords. If you can come out and they don't have too many Vikings, enough to one-shot Broodlords or a bunch of Thors or something like that, you can kind of just swing in, say, look, you've got a crazy high tank count. Yes, that's very scary. The ghosts are very good. But if I can just come in with a big wave of Broodlords, if you're not fully positioned and prepared, that definitely can do very well. But I think it's very dangerous, right? We've seen Broodlords just die to Vikings. We've seen them get sniped and look useless if the infestors covering them get EMP'd. So I think for now, Solar's playing more of a look. I'm still ahead on the bank. Let's wait for you to stretch yourself out a little bit too thin. I will open up the Great Aspire tech so that I've got that option. But for now, he seems to just be kind of waiting for Maru to make a misstep. And Maru still playing super patiently. He's not giving him that opportunity at all. He's just kind of chilling.
Seeing the lurkers move forward to take a tank and a sensor tower in a place where they can't really push further than that really just tells you they're fighting for every single inch. Every little tiny bit that can be grabbed is worth its weight in gold in this type of game, because we're already kind of getting to that, all right, I'm taking the corner bases. I'm just going to try and throw everything at you, and hopefully that cost-effective Terran army just doesn't hold up, right? You want to burn through that ghost energy, and it will eventually come down as well. As we see that parasitic bomb get another 2 medevacs, a lot of it's going to come down to that control of the ghosts versus the Vipers, right? Whether you're getting those abducts, those blinding clouds, those parabombs, whether you're landing those snipes or they're getting canceled, or getting the EMPs, right, on either the Vipers or the infestors. Those specialist units are so integral, because 2 blinding clouds in the right spots over those tanks makes them all useless, right?
Part of me is looking at this situation now. Solar there has a 16,000 resource bank up against Maru's 5,000. That's massive. Over 10,000 resource advantage. But the problem is he hasn't been able to use it. And where can he find a way to use it? Right now, abducting in the bottom left, grabs the siege tanks out. Does do some damage there. He's trying to run in now. Lurker's going to burrow on top of that tank and that planetary. Ling's taking out the morphing extra planetary, but a whole lot of lurkers do fall. This is not cheap. I know that there's a few Bronze League players out there shouting it in the Twitch chat already. Where's the Nidus worm? But honestly, I'd love it. Like,
oh, I would too.
It'd be sick.
I mean, that's the absolute best way to exploit this, right? Other than just trying to stretch the opponent thin on the defense, and I was saying that may not even be necessary. Gets all of the tanks by the center position base with the gold gas, kills the command center, and the Hydras are still moving forward over here. So, yeah, there's that anchor planetary to hold it down, but Maru's counterattack is hitting a base that has already been, I mean, for the most part, mined out. There's some minerals left, but at this stage, you really just want to make sure you're pulling in that gas, and that base is close enough that, I mean, in a worst-case situation, it's not going to be that hard for Solar to secure later on if he needs to. Maru, I feel like he's not getting quite enough done here with this setup, with this army composition that he has. The ghosts are being chased back towards that 4th base as well.
mass Zergling. You know, there's not many Marines anymore. It's mostly just ghosts and siege tanks. And the Zerglings actually do really well in this scenario. Those ghosts pulling back are gunning them down, attacking into planetaries. Multiple planetaries, not the best there. Okay, the tail end of that trade got really nasty. But the moves before that were great. Solar here, as Maru spreads out to not just a 5th base, but a 6th base, a 7th base, Solar's finding angles just with this swarm of unit advantage. And the thing is, the fact that Maru's retaking those bases, that's an opportunity. That's actually a huge misstep in my opinion. If Solar keeps jumping on those with these same sort of mid-gear armies, he'd do really well. I think Broodlords is a terrible mistake at this point. I actually feel like if he just kept making Hydraling Bane, he could push through. He's seen mass Viking, the ghosts are low on energy, he's cleared the siege tank count out. This is the time to stay on the low tier units. I think he's swapping into air at exactly the wrong moment. Maybe he can make it work. Let's see what Solar can do here.
I do think I don't think he's rebuilt the nukes though since he fired off the few that he made.
These Broodlords getting some good trades off, but he just can't go too far. If he oversteps for a moment, those EMPs, those Vikings are going to find really big targets. Those snipes on the Broodlords always something that we have to count for as well. And just the continual base sniping from Maru has been very big. If Solar was mining this bottom left this whole time, I feel like he could continue to kind of overwhelm and just kind of strangle Maru. But he hasn't got that. He's just now starting it up. He hasn't really cracked into the production. Now is not the time to Nidus Worm because he's on an air army, but definitely if he ever gets to the point of kind of trading this out and rebuilding a different sort of army, I'd love to see that. For now, though, it's all Spellcaster micro. Parasitic Bomb on the Vikings, they're quickly split, though. As long as Maru keeps repairing those Vikings up, pulling the SCVs, then he might be able to do well there, and he keeps sniping these hatcheries off, looking for these good little trades on the fringes. But the one real fear as a Terran fan here, Maru done so many things to pull himself back into this game. The Viking count is massive. He's very reliant on it, and they are just damned fragile to these spellcasters. So really is at a point where, oh my god, no, just like that, chain fungal landing, parasitic bomb does go down as well. I cannot believe it. Oh my lord,
you've got to be
land the nuke.
You got to be so careful. Yeah, he starts with the nuke, right? And then you think I think he wanted to kind of bait Solar and say, yeah, I'll give you the fungal on the Vikings because you don't see the ghost. But that was not the case. The Broodlords targeted down the ghost, and then all the Vikings ripped to pieces by fungal. Vikings have a lot of range. They do some pretty good damage, but they are made of paper mache, Pig. They fall apart. They get ripped and torn pretty easily. If it's a little drizzly outside and you're carrying it from one classroom to the other, it's going to fall apart in your hands before you get to your seat. And that's something that you have to be really mindful of. You want those Vikings spread out before the fight. You want some of them on one side of the planetary, some of them on the other. It hurts the target firing, but I mean, it's a little bit better than eating that double AoE of the parasitic bomb, the fungal growth, because that's a wombo combo that is very, very hard to overcome if he wipes out all of your Vikings once or twice.
And this is the previous series. Solar won with that exact same move against Showtime. The fungal Viper combo there. And some EMPs landing, clipping quite a few of those units. Sporkroll on the high ground looking good. I'd love those Broodlords to finish that planetary off. It's burning, and he's not even repairing it right now. Got very low, but I think after the EMPs landed and those libs got sieged so far, Solar did not want to take any risks. Instead, going to focus on denying the bottom left base as that Ling Hydra continues to maraud around the map. And yeah, the fact that Solar, I mean, he did it against Showtime in also not an amazing position. Just big fungal Viper combo, the parasitic bomb. He's going to keep looking for it here. Doesn't quite get the detection on that ghost, and he's just going to back off for now. Pull the Spore Crawler back. We'll have to replace those creep tumors and push on back forward. Solar has built himself an impressive bank. He's still chipping away, and even though Maru has those very rich bases in the middle and the top center of the map, Solar is just keeping him well off the bottom side.
Yeah, this game's gotten kind of wild, hasn't it? So that resources loss gets a little bit closer now, about a 7,000 total differential, a little bit better than what we were looking at earlier for Solar. So he is chipping away at a decent pace, and I think if he gets another big round of those Vikings taken down, that should suck out the rest of Maru's bank. These are the types of situations where you just have to be so cautious about every move that you make, because both of these players have pretty much all the pieces that they need to do this. But at this point, it boils down purely to the multitasking, the control, the decision-making, 26 Vikings can deal with 16 Broodlords, right? With the Ghost support and some Marines, the Thors. Obviously, he doesn't really have Marines at this point anymore, but they'll be the easiest thing for him to replenish in a worst-case scenario. But conversely, if the Corruptors with the Parasitic Bomb and a Fungal hit those Vikings, then it swings the other way real freaking quick.
Indeed, Nate. And you talked about spreading out the Vikings. Well, Maru is a braver man than you or I. He absolutely never does it. Same thing against Protoss. When Storm can land, if he's playing against Carrier Skytoss, he will clump his Vikings till the day he dies. And it means he can one-shot units and pick them off. So when he does his micro just right, the way he intends, it gives him amazing ability to pick off units without really taking any damage. But we saw what happens if he gets hit by the Fungal. It's a big if. Maru thinks he's good enough to just make sure it never happens. We on the sidelines, instead of watching with our hearts about to explode, because we know how easy it is for just one Fungal to land in the middle of those Vikings. So it really makes this a nail-biting and exciting match to watch, as the micro on either side could be game-ending. Likewise, if EMP lands on all of the Infestors and Vipers, there's not much support left, and Solar's army just gets overwhelmed.
Yeah, I love the zoning nuke, though. Throws out another one, and he's trying to, once again, kind of keep that space open. You're not running your Infestors or anything in that general direction. Obviously, you don't want to get EMP'd, but being nuked is a little bit worse, I think some people could say. And it's turned into a struggle over the final base, the final uncontested base, right? Or I guess the final contested base being that pocket left corner, which Maru had earlier and kind of got unseated from. But considering that Solar's gotten that top right corner base, I mean, that means the maximum amount of resources available for these two players is not the same if one of them is able to get the majority of this last one that neither of them have been able to secure properly. Bringing in, building missile turrets right on top of location. Peggy saying, "This is mine. I want it. Nobody else can have it." The Infestors come forward. Solid EMP. It's a few of them. There is a nuke running, but I don't think he's got the vision to actually go for it yet. The Overseers come up a smidge. They are not able to kill it.
You gotta pull out of there. Okay, Sol, I was like, dude, I thought he maybe thought he'd killed the Ghost that launched the nuke, and I was like, you need to pull back, dude. He does get out of there. On the top side of the map, there's Bio with the Liberator behind. I really love the way Maru is looking for efficiency there. I think Solar, he should be able to overwhelm, but actually more Bio comes in, and this is turning into a really nice fight for Maru. Solar needs to overcommit, I think, to just clear up that fight on the other side, and if Maru can get that base up in the bottom left at the same time, that will be huge. He's going to take out this hatchery in the top right by the looks of it. There's not that much Zerg left to defend. Marauder's very tanky. And more EMPs coming forward, but Ghosts do pay with their lives. Ooh, a Fungal clips a few of the Vikings, but only a few. Those EMPs landing and answering the Thors there. More Vikings spread out, so it feels like Maru, he's clumping enough Vikings to one-shot Broodlords, and the rest are not on a control group. So that's actually very clever. He wants the advantage without, maximizing the downside, I guess. He wants to just try and minimize that risk of getting every single Viking caught by a Fungal.
Yeah, and I don't mind that at all, because as long as you're using enough Vikings to one-shot whatever's on the edge, there's no reason, really, to risk any more of them, assuming that a Fungal or a Parasitic Bomb comes in. So just a really clever heads-up play by Maru once again. The Broodlords are going to show up to the bottom left base. The Ghosts were kind of just running past those spores up north. They are not in position to do much about this right now. And this is, oh my God, just watching this has just been so intense. The struggle to try and claim the last base that has any moderate level of resources left, even though it's not untouched though, Pig. It's been kind of shared between the two of them. We know the Terran is supposed to be able to do more with less, but in this situation, I think Maru would really like to have some more.
Yeah, both players really, I mean, they know it's going to come down to potentially the last few units in this game, and double nukes now going down to zone out. But remember, each time you nuke like that, that's 100 minerals, 100 gas for each one. So that's 200 minerals, 200 gas. What do you get for it?
An extractor.
A creep tumor. Extractor. I mean, it allows you to mine a little bit of minerals there. So, I mean, this does take pressure off you. It allows you to push forward, but ooh, nice answer there. Comes forward with the Broodlords, throws down a wave and pushes them back, forces them to cancel those nukes. This is such a close game, and it seems to have settled down with neither player wanting to really overcommit to the bottom left, but it could still turn very quickly at any moment.
A couple of engaging fungals there from Solar as he's able to get a Ghost or two, a Viking or two, and hits the Thor there. And the Thors can help deal a lot of damage to that air unit, but yeah, there's not really... I guess with the Infestors gone, the Vikings should be able to, with some kiting, deal with a lot of what is here. But I wonder if he can actually chase them, though, because there's so many Corruptors.
The EMP,
and there's still the Spores.
And with the EMPs, like, yeah, you called it, Nate. I mean, they took out the Spellcasters, but the Corruptors doing all right. It looks like taking that base out, though, is huge because now Solar pushes back all the static in this area. And, oh, he's got just enough Corruptors to jump on top. If there was a few Ghosts in reserve, that's where, like, a big snipe wave would come in, clear the Corruptors, and your Vikings demolish. But enough Fungals and Parasitic Bombs went down that I think so much damage landed on those Vikings before they all got EMP'd. And so because of that, it was just enough to turn that kind of the critical moment where suddenly the Terran doesn't have enough damage output, your Corruptors overwhelm, your Broodlords take out the ground, and now it looks like Solar's got a massively dominating army.
Yeah, and this has been such a well-played game by Solar, taking that engagement at a perfect time when the energy had been burned, when some of the Ghosts had either been out of position or killed already. So that northeast base dies, but Maru is not sitting on a tremendous amount of resources. He still has a couple of bases that are mining, so it's not over by any means, but he's going to start to slowly run out of the gas, sooner than the rest of his resources. And that's kind of where we talked about those Ghosts and those nukes and how cost-effective they are. 100 minerals, 100 gas. It's like, oh, it doesn't sound like a lot for a nuke, but then, you're 40 minutes deep into a game on Romanticide, and you might have burned about a base or two worth of resources, maybe a whole mineral patch or two or a whole geyser worth of gas, and you're suddenly wishing that you had some other units instead of that. And this is where I find it just gets so hard because he tried to use so many Vikings, but as we're talking about, they're a little bit on the flimsier side, and then there were so many Corruptors with those Broodlords, he couldn't actually fight the Broodlords. He was busy trying to deal with the Corruptors the whole time, because those can kill the Vikings too. So now there's the defensive nuke, the panic nuke, but I mean, it takes a pretty huge mistake from a Zerg player to fall for this and get hit by that.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness, he's trying to get that shot. It does land. He gets all the Broodlords. What?
Oh
my God.
Oh my God.
Oh.
No.
Ah.
Cannot
What?
believe. Oh my God, he was launching nukes in the corner at the same time. So Solar, you can see him there, the reaction in his chair. He cannot believe it. He thought it was a nuke going down on one of his expansions. He did not realize there was one in his army. Oh, great Fungals. He's still in this. He's still going to fight it out. He does not have much money left. He's army.
I can't.
No.
Oh my God.